There's a lot more of kind of questions that it poses to you and, kind of quick answers. And, one of the first 2 pages you open up is, what's working well in your life right now and what are some areas that you would want to fix. And, so what's working well, I had a whole bunch of things of, I'm bonding with people outside of our job, that are in a similar predicament, and actually now spending more time with them than when we were in the building,
exactly.
Right? Mm-hmm. I am fortunate that I live near a very pretty park, so I think my dog and I are getting a lot more steps in, so there's something that's working well these days. And then the next page is, if you could change, what are the 3 things or 5 things that you would want to change about your life right now? And not surprisingly, it's get a job or get a good job that I want and value. And so, and the thing that I liked about that exercise of the things I could change is next to it, it says, what's the first step towards changing it? If there's something you need to change in your life, so that's another thing I had that I figure is probably common with some other folks, but lose weight, right? So it's lose weight and get a job that I like are 2 of the things that I want to change and move forward with. And so these books and kind of doing the personal assessment and figuring out what's right for me are easy, like were the first steps. And when it's just asking for that first step, it's a lot easier to grasp. And so the getting out and walking more, and then the next thing, really it was the walking was first, and it was to help clear my head and to think about what I wanted for a job. So you can see they're almost interrelated. Mm-hmm. Only having to identify one or 2 things to kind of get the ball rolling is so much easier than what's the whole solution.
Right. I think also from the job perspective, again, getting back to all of a sudden feeling all that pressure, I've got to get a great job, and just being, going through tons and tons of opportunities and emails and trying to make sure that I go to this networking and that networking meeting can be overwhelming, and then you get paralyzed. You don't know what to do. But just saying, I'm going to take this first step and do this one thing, and then, okay, I've achieved that. So what's on the next thing is much more manageable.
Exactly. And you brought up the networking, which I know is so critical. That's how I got the job when I lost mine 10 years ago. And, it had been someone that I had met at a conference, and they needed somebody, and I really liked those people. And so luckily, networked and got in there. Right now, there's been a lot of, again, and I'm very happy about this. I had a lot of people offer to make connections for me, but I didn't even know how to sell myself, or like even to say what I wanted. So I haven't tapped into that network. I'm just starting to now and building my list of everybody that I want to reach out to, and literally a spreadsheet of who are they, how do I know them, and I'm going to keep track of kind of communications. But I didn't want to use my, kind of get out of jail free card until I was ready to. I didn't want to call in those chips until, I was good and ready, and I couldn't. Now I'm getting there. So yeah, I'll just tell you a couple other questions that I thought were interesting, in this book. And one is, during your childhood, when were you the happiest? And so it says, write down 3 events that you remember most fondly and describe them a bit. But which is, important to look at. But what I liked most was then the follow-up question, which is, what's the common theme? Can you find a common theme or common thread in those? And so again, when you kind of, all of this is just helping like narrow down focuses and things to look for and things to know what's important to you. And, I think we've all been asked, tell me 3 things about your childhood. But it was reading that question of what's the commonality between them that helps identify, something that's, again, resonates and important to you.
Yeah, I really like the idea of connecting all the dots. I think that was one of the things that we all talked about at work a lot is, we're all looking at all the different types of information or whatever it happened to be, but how do I connect everything? And all these different components are saying you have to look at things holistically. You have to connect the dots, because it's going to make you feel better.
One of the questions in here that actually helped me last week with one of my first kind of networking discussions with someone is it says, looking over the past year or two, what 5 things do you feel grateful about or appreciative about, or, you know, kind of your biggest successes? And, you know, and what did you learn from them? And so I started kind of jotting these down for a discussion that I was going to have with someone that's in, you know, exploratory phase of looking, you know, about a potential new job on that person's team. And I found, like, going back and looking at, you know, my mid-year reviews and my annual reviews, because, you know, you get so caught up in all the details of day in and day out that you forget some of the work or some of your achievements. And so going back and reading for the last 2 years my reviews and the things that I had accomplished, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. You know, so that was something then that was important in the discussion that I had last week. And so it is funny, you know, I mean, everything does tie together.
Yeah, I really like the idea of going back and looking over your old reviews just to say, what were the things that I was really passionate about? Because, you know, it could have been something that you did 5 years ago, right? And you forgot all about it, and you're like, oh my God, I love that stuff. You know, maybe I really, if, you know, a job comes up and it's got some of those elements, it might be something that I would really be interested in doing.
Right. All these questions seem to be allowing you to identify or re-remember, and then you can parlay that into your evaluation of all these opportunities. And in discussions, I think, with people, especially in interviews, which are so critical, you're able to immediately call back all of these and really understand whether or not there's going to be a good fit.
Right. Well, and I said, I mentioned to you before we started recording that in the interview last week, there were like 2 questions that I wasn't expecting. But I was able to answer them because of this rereading and this self-assessment and understanding, you know, and what's important to me. And then lastly, all I would say in wrapping up is it says, you know, kind of, it's a year and a year from now, and you're writing a journal entry. Tell us about your life and what you're thinking and what you're doing. And so it's kind of forcing you to look to the future. Where do you want to get to? And I have to admit, I haven't written that one in yet. But I will. But what they do say in the back is, you know, again, also even putting SMART goal worksheets in the back of, like, so if you've set a goal that let's say I decide I want a job by, you know, June 1st, then I have to write a SMART goal worksheet. And so it has to be, you know, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So, you know, again, you'd have to decide what your goal is, but I like that they're kind of making you put an assessment behind it.
Yeah, and Betsy, I know, like, one other thing that we had talked about a little bit earlier, prior to our discussion here, is around the fact that, you know, maybe you'll take a different position, and just because, you know, it might be lower pay or it might be whatever, because it's going to give you a better learning experience. So do you want to just talk about that a little bit more?
I think it was you, Shelley, that told me, one of the people from the outplacement service made the comment of, you know, the idea of jobs, you know, longevity is a thing of the past, and that you should look at, you know, whatever role you get is really only for probably 2 to 3 years. You actually all of a sudden allowed my mind to free up some roles that I wouldn't have considered. That, wait, I could go take a job for 1 to 2 years, and even if it's lesser pay, you know, I could now take that as, you know, a learning. Essentially, it's almost like an executive MBA. So then I can use that to help build my career for whatever that next role is, or whatever I deem like I want, you know, like, where do I want to be in 5 years? And I may need this, you know, 2 years, it may be a lesser pay to gain some experience so that I can get to that 5-year goal.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love the idea of the fact that it doesn't just have to all be about money. You know, that there's all these other things that can really help you. They're like stepping stones to move forward on your journey.
Well, it's just like even at our company, there were times that, you know, people would take lateral moves just because they wanted to gain additional experience. So then that allowed them to have a, you know, broader, you know, curriculum behind them, and, you know, broader experiences, so that then they could move up to a different level later on.
Well, Betsy, thanks so much for sharing your self-assessment. We really appreciate it. We really did. You did a great job, and you finally getting the wine that you so heartily deserved.
Finally.
Finally.
Yes.
So here.
Cheers. Cheers. We're actually drinking a very nice Sares Crianza. It's a Rioja. Thanks again for your time today.
No problem.
It was great for you to share your self-assessment experience, the tools that you're leveraging right now to help you move and navigate through your journey. And we'd love to have you come back and talk some more.
Yeah, we'd love to hear how all of these kind of tools and techniques helped you and where you've gotten on that journey. So be terrific to have you back.
Yep. Thanks again.
Thanks.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I also want to make sure that our listeners know that you can get the name and the author of the books that Betsy discussed on our blog, which is on our website, www.over50.com, over50andfired.com.
Thanks for listening. Bye.